So I have managed to find a way to add a pocket yellowstone notebook back into my system. I think decorating my old pocket journals from 2023 and 2024 back in April just made me miss having a physical journal, and even though journaling digitally has been a really good change for me, I occasionally do wish I could just put pen to paper. So I decided to pick up a pocket yellowstone to use as my random thought journal. Essentially, this will be there for when I just need to physically journal something, but how much I write and how often really doesn't matter to me. I just want this journal to be there for when I need it. This is a blank notebook since I'm not really a fan of the 5mm grid spacing, so I just decided to make a 4mm grid on a piece of paper to slip behind the blank pages in order to help me keep my lines straight. And so far I'm really enjoying this and really happy I added a journal back into my system. I recently started watching the show Yellowstone, and similar to how I kept track of my thoughts for The Last of Us Season 2 episodes, I want to keep track of my thoughts at the end of watching each season. To make the boulder header, I used a pilot vanishing point and find, and then I added a printed photo from the show and an icon from Megan Rhiannon. The rest of the writing was with my pilot vanishing point and extra fine. I decided to make the switch from the clear cover I usually have on my Hobonichi Weeks Mega Planner to move into the black handwrite note cover from Hobonichi. This was already in my collection from 2023, I think. I really can't remember when I picked this up, but I love all the pockets that it has on the side. And it does fit a Hobonichi Weeks Mega, even when it has fluffed up a bit. Since I do add bits of paper with paper clips, it is bulking up a little bit. So I know I may not be able to use this cover later in the year, so I wanted to use it now while I still have the chance. I'm also taking the opportunity to decorate the front of the inside cover with a task list and my vision board for the month of June. I also love how even though this is a zip cover, it does not chew up any of my tabs. My tabs are made with repositionable sticky tabs and index stickers from Daiso that I keep in my Traveler's Company sticker book, and then I just cut it to the desired length and label the tab. Since the Mega just has so much more extra note pages, I love being able to easily flip to certain pages with these tabs since they are labeled, instead of all of the Midori index clips I used to use where I would just have to flip a few times before finding the correct one. So far, I have been really enjoying the new journal, and I'm so happy that I added this to my system. I like how I can just pull this out when I need to get some thoughts out, and even though I still journal digitally daily, sometimes I just want to put that pen to paper and just rant. I did at one point consider just journaling in the Hobonichi Weeks note pages. However, I really just wanted the flexibility to journal for as little or as much as I want without worrying about the layouts or how many pages I would end up using. Ultimately, while I do include some journaling in my planner, I'm a lot more conscious about the layouts and how many pages I'm using up and whether this is going to take up a full page or a half a page. So I wanted to briefly answer a question that I've been getting a lot, both on my Instagram and YouTube, which was, how do I keep up with my notebooks? Like, how do I dedicate time to filling out each of them? Especially considering that last year I wasn't really good at keeping up with it, especially my hobonichi weeks, which was my main planner. And ultimately, I've kind of had to try and keep my system as minimal as possible while still being able to get the enjoyment that I get out of all of my notebooks, which is why I have removed certain notebooks. And I've realized that the more condensed my system is, the better, which is why I really am a 3 notebook person. And even the core of my system is really these 2 notebooks. This is more of a new addition. But in regards to my reading logs, which I keep in this traveler's notebook, I just kind of have gotten into the routine to filling out my reading log every Friday. And because I use Kindle Unlimited to be able to download books, I try to stay, or I'm pretty good at staying up to date, because you can only like download a certain amount before you have to kind of like give them back. So that usually takes about like 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how many books I read that week. And keeping to a schedule is really good because it helps me like mentally know like, hey, it's Friday, that's the day I need to update it, so I don't fall behind, which is that has happened in the past, and it would be really stressful to remember the books I read and what I wanted to document. And my reading journal is just something that I'm trying to get into the routine of at least journaling once a month. So for the moment, I'm still trying to decide if there's a specific routine. There probably really won't be, since it's more like if I have something reading related that I want to journal more like formally about, then that's the space for it. Then for my hobonichi weeks, I set this up every Sunday. I find that it's the day that I like to plan for the week ahead, which is already what I do with my Google Calendar, since I do really enjoy time blocking digitally in my Google Calendar. Which is also really useful because if I ever do fall behind in this planner, I can always reference and backfill from my Google Calendar. And ultimately, I am not saying that I'm in this every single day. I really do try to, but there are some weeks where I'm just surviving on Post-it notes, and other weeks where I have this open on my desk every single day. It really just depends the week that it is, but I do try to touch this a few times during the week, mainly most of the time I'm in the weekly pages or my notes, like updating them, since that was another thing that I was really bad at last year, was setting up collections or notes, but never going back to actually update them. So I'm trying better. And I think also having a pre-printed like monthly and weekly and then just like blank note pages makes it really easy, since I mainly have to just like upkeep the notes. That's like my main reminder, because if I fall back on the weekly pages, I can always like go back anytime because of the fact that they are pre-printed, so I don't have to feel like, oh, I can't move on to the next page because I need to see like how much room it's going to take. And then I also do have a digital diary, which I hope to learn how to typeset so that I can actually like print it out and bind it into an actual physical copy. But ultimately that is still working really well, since I can just access my phone, like a Word document, much easier and on the go. So that means I'm doing that every day. Usually it's like at nighttime as kind of like my winding down routine before I go to sleep. But at any point during the day, I can pull up that document and type, and I type faster than I write. So it usually takes like less than 30 minutes. It's also really easy to backfill because like if maybe I'm just going through a really busy period, I can just jot down a few bullet points of like what happened that day that I might want to journal back. And then I can pick that back up when I have the time to actually expand on them. But because that is digital, I have been missing the physical aspect of journaling. So I did set up a little journal, and this is mainly just for when I have thoughts and I just want to get them out. And it may be something that I'm already mentioning in my digital journal, but because that is now digital, I do sometimes crave of putting the pen to paper and just rambling. So that's what this is ultimately. And anything goes. I can write about anything. Don't really have to worry about it. The only really rule is just putting the date and journaling. That's really it. So, and using fountain pen, of course. But ultimately, the main thing that I've learned to keeping up with my notebooks is just trying to keep my system minimal while also just still having room to have fun and play with it, and making time for my other hobbies, because this is a productivity tool, but it is also a hobby of mine. But I do have other hobbies that I want to make sure that I'm able to put time into. So I think that was where I realized I needed to make some cuts to my system over the time, was just realizing that it was becoming a bit stressful to feel like I had to keep up with all of my notebooks, but also not have time for my other things that I really like to do, since I do really love to read, and that takes up time as well. But if you have questions about more questions about how I'm keeping up with my notebooks, definitely leave them down in the comments below. One thing I love about this black hobonichi cover is it has space in the back to put all my stickers. Even though this is technically meant for credit cards to use as a wallet, I like being able to keep stickers here so I don't have to search through my stash each time I want to add something to my planner. The way I set up my planner for the next week has not really changed much. On the left page, I use it to document any events or appointments I want to make note of, or any tasks that need to happen on a specific day. If a task just needs to happen during the week, but not on a specific day, it goes in my inbox, which I put below my habit tracker on the right page. I have been trying a new habit tracker layout where I group habits together and leave space in between, and I've been liking it so far, since sometimes the long list of habits can be really crowded and it just makes it harder to see which box I have ticked off, and I have definitely accidentally ticked off the wrong one, which is always a little bit disappointing. In this last clip, I'm journaling in my reading journal, which I have in a standard traveler's notebook cover. I really love how I am still able to write in the inserts while they are in the cover, so I don't have to take them out each time I want to use them, unlike before when I was keeping them in the Traveler's Company archive binders. And even though this was just once a week, it was a little bit annoying, but it wasn't so much that I wanted to change anything. But now that I have the actual covers for them, it's so nice. For this entry, I wanted to journal about my thoughts on a book after it's released, but since this is not an actual review of a book, it is not going into my reading log.